And we're going to go ahead and get started, and then folks join in. They'll join in. And again, this is going to be recorded and shared. So I want to thank you again for being here. I am Diana. I am chair of this committee, and also my day job is at Stanford Children's Hospital. I do their government relations and policy. And you know Nicole, you just met Kim and Maria, V Maria.
Oh, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Are you with Climb as well, or?
No, 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 no. I'm with Poppy Bank in Los Altos. Yeah,
Well, one of our newest members. Welcome.
thank you.
So glad to have you here.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just going to really quickly introduce our speaker. This is Jonathan Brabson. He is the partnership manager for Climb, an all-in-one digital compliance solution to provide cookie consent management, data subject requests, accessibility features, and privacy policy storage. Excuse me. He also leads the Climb for Good program, working with chambers, associations, and nonprofits across the country to help organizations strengthen brand reputation through better digital accessibility and transparency. With more than 25 years in leadership and partnerships through soccer and athletics, awesome. Jonathan focuses on how real people experience a brand online, especially visitors with invisible disabilities who rarely speak up when something feels hard to use. My mom just calls me, but I'm glad to have Climb here. His work centers on practical, low lift ways organizations can align their digital presence with the values they already live out in their communities. He's a certified professional
No,
in
I'm not a CPA.
accessibility core competencies, CPACC, and regularly collaborates with chambers and nonprofit leaders to educate members on accessibility, privacy, and trust in the digital space. Thank you again for being here so much. And we're just going to go ahead and have you start. Talk to us about Climb and what our members can benefit from this.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thanks Nicole for setting this up. I know when we talked back in the summer, one of our first conversations was like, this is something that our members need to be aware of. I think there's a lot of value into this, and you're right. So let me go and start off with let me go and share my screen with you guys to kind of give us a better better understanding of kind of where we're going to try to get to today. So is my screen coming up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah, as we've all done Zoom calls before, that's the ultimate question. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? So, like you mentioned, Diana, Climb is an all-in-one digital compliance tool. But the first part of this conversation is really about: are you aware? Do you know? Because one of the things that we run into so often in what it is that we're trying to provide is just lack of really awareness in the industry when it comes around to what we're trying to provide. And so the reason why we've created this and we're having this conversation is that our goal is to help create a more transparent and inclusive digital experience for your local community. Because anytime the local community can be strong, whether it's in the digital space or in the physical space, that's going to drive the economy higher, and it's just a great place to live. And so that's our goal. So, all right. So just a little bit about this. So as Diana mentioned, I'm a CPACC, not a CPA. You do not want me touching your taxes. So essentially, what that means is I sat for a certified professional accessibility exam in May, I believe. And so what that did was it gave me the opportunity to learn how to um, know the physical space when it comes to accessibility, but also the digital space when it comes to accessibility. So now that I can have these conversations as a certified professional with that. As she mentioned, I was a collegiate women's soccer coach for 25 years as well. And so one of the things that has given to me is learning how to work with uh, different individuals from different circumstances. And really, what it has told me is that we are all the same at the core. And so that's why I'm heading up the Climb for Good program, is just to bring more awareness to digital compliance for people who don't speak up, essentially. A couple of things that we've been able to do. The Climb for Good program, we're in about our first year doing it, and a couple of people that we work with, the St. Charles Chamber of Commerce. It's a suburb outside of St. Louis. The Association's Executives of North Carolina. Within that association, there's medical, there's law, there's dental, there's all sorts of different associations within that. The Coleraine Chamber of Commerce, right outside of Cincinnati, and then other smaller chambers that are looking for additional member value and innovative leadership. The goal here when Climb was created is that we wanted to provide a simple but effective widget that allows for a multitude of compliance solutions to where anybody, whether you have the highest technical expertise or you just simply know how to turn a computer on, you can install this. But the biggest thing is that we also want to make sure that you're not having to spend a ton of money to take steps. And I think that's very important. I'm going to talk about it. Steps, 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 steps. Okay, a couple of things I want you guys to think about real quick before we really go on. So your website, does that represent your brand and your mission? When I say website compliance, does that sound like a daunting task where now I've got to go to the board and ask for hundreds of thousands of dollars and I got to hire 4 or 5 new individuals? I want my website to assist me with, what is it? Does it assist me with more leads? Does it assist me with more revenue? What does your website assist you with? Fill in the blank. And also, my website could be the first impression for my business. So hopefully we'll go through those and see where maybe digital compliance falls in within that. Okay, so here are some challenges that are out there but are not being discussed when it comes from the digital side. So there's essentially 3 things: accessibility, document generations, and privacy. All right, accessibility, I will come back to that, but privacy is simply when you've gone to a website and you're looking at shoes, shorts, socks, whatever the case may be, that website is gathering your information. Now, they're gathering your information from a variety of ways, but it could be as simple as they know your IP address, they know your browser history, and maybe location. And what happens is from there is the different services that are on there gather that information and they can be reselling it, resharing it, retargeting you. So you go from X website and then you go to Y website, and on Y website, all of a sudden you're getting advertised to. Most people have noticed that. And so what privacy does is that allows you as the consumer or as the visitor to control how your information is being collected, shared, or stored. Okay. And there's varying laws. Right now, there's 19 states that have passed some form of these privacy laws. The other thing are document generators, privacy policies, cookie policies. Those are very, very important to meet the necessary privacy laws. There's a cost to that because now you got to bring in attorneys. They've got to write the policies. So what we have also been able to do is help mitigate the cost with that. Still suggest you work with an attorney and get it approved. But through our solution, we also help mitigate those sorts of things to not only produce, but also update them very, very quickly. The other thing is accessibility is what we're really going to touch on more so is most people think of accessibility in a physical space, but it also applies to your website as well, to your digital space as well. What's happening is there's lawsuits that are going on. There's reputational damage if you do have a lawsuit because now you are that company that is not accessible. And I want to stop right there. Everyone I've talked to when it comes to accessibility, it's just lack of awareness. So very good people, awesome people, great hearts, but this is just something that has not been brought to their attention. And then the last thing obviously is lost revenue opportunities as well. And there's other things that we do. You can see there, HIPAA violations. If you have chat bots, wiretapping violations, and then videos. So the first consumer data privacy law that was passed was the California Consumer Privacy Act that essentially says that they want consumers to have control over how businesses collect, use, and share their personal information, just as I mentioned earlier. Now, there's thresholds with that. A lot of times with smaller chambers, the thresholds aren't met by many of the members. But for example, if you're in a highly regulated industry, say in banking or payment processing, that could fall underneath that. If you're in healthcare, right? So there's different industries that doesn't matter your thresholds that fall within that. So you can see, but the biggest thing to remember is that if you do fall under this threshold, it's not about where the business is located. It's about where the visitor is coming from. I'm coming from California, or I'm coming from North Carolina. If I come to a California site, they technically, under law, they do not have to offer me the ability to opt out of my information being gathered, or excuse me, opting into that. Why? Because North Carolina does not currently have a consumer data privacy law. Now, I just found out 2 weeks ago that it's taken the next step towards getting signed, but currently you don't have to offer that to me. But coming from California, if my company meets a certain threshold, even if I'm located in Alabama, I must present you the necessary California Consumer Privacy Act laws. So again, it's not about the location of the business, it's about the location of the individual. What are some responsibilities? And as I mentioned, each state is a little bit different. It's sort of like sales tax. Okay. Here in North Carolina, the sales tax is less in South Carolina. So I only live, I think, 20 minutes from the border. So I'm always going to South Carolina to get gas, much cheaper because of the taxes. All right. We can't figure out why, but that's just how they have it. It's the same type of thing. California is different than Utah, is different than Oregon, is different than Virginia, so on and so forth. And so one of the things that you have to be able to do is making sure that you're providing the necessary opportunities. Climb has already done this. So all these things you see here, Climb has already added that into the back end. And so according to CCPA, you need to have a prominent opt-out link for data sales. And when I say prominent, it is clear. There's no tricks to it. When you click on it, it goes right there to opt out. The other thing is, how do you assess deleting data? So in other words, I'm sure many of you guys have maybe gone on and filled out a form that says, delete my information. How do you as a business handle that? If somebody sends you a request to delete their data, how do you handle that? Well, what happens is, one, you don't even know if the person's real or not. And so now you got to determine if they're real. Then you have to send another email saying that you received a request. Then you have to send another email stating that based on the location that they're coming from, you will process their request within so many days. Then you got to go process the request. And now you have to go and let them know that you've done it. We have already provided all those unnecessary steps. So through our widget, when somebody submits a subject request, Climb will send an email on your behalf asking them to verify who they are. We will store it. We will create reminders. We will let you know when it needs to be processed by based on the location with where they're coming from. The other thing is a very clear, do not sell my information, my personal information. And again, it literally has to be, do not sell my personal information. Regardless if you meet these thresholds, I always like to say transparency is always a nice thing to have. If somebody wants to opt out and do not sell my personal information, that's not a bad thing. Okay. A lot of times nowadays, I think people are very sensitive to where their information is going out there on the dark web. To being able to provide that link, it's just a trusting, respectful way to say, hey, we hear you, we respect you, and we want to honor how you want to do business with us. And then obviously updated privacy policies, which we mentioned earlier, and then just honor their request. There are solutions out there that if you click reject all, it's still processing and gathering your information. So making sure that solution actually does what you say that you want it to do. So let me kind of stop there on the consumer data privacy part and sort of open it up to questions that you guys might have before I move into the what I consider the more fun part, which is accessibility.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to also welcome Mark, who's also on the board with me for the chamber. I don't have a major question, but I want to thank you for covering because I've always wondered how it is from state to state when you have a national, even international website. And so, what does that look like if you're selling or just doing anything outside of California? So, I will say I appreciate the transparency and I love the do not sell my information. I love all that stuff. It's when you have to go customize that I just like lose patience. I'm like, you know what, take my data. I don't at this point I'm over it.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't even know how you do the state by state on top of like any federal guidelines that you have to deal with when it comes to just privacy. So, but I just want to thank you for this because this was informational. I'm not selling anything. I'm not doing anything. I don't even do anything with our website, but I just as a consumer, I found this very informational.
And that's a great point that you mentioned is that we just all and I don't want to speak out of turn, so I apologize. But for me, like just be upfront and transparent with me. And if I decide to accept all, to your point, Diana, because you got sick of trying to go through it individually, and then all of a sudden, if I go to Facebook and they're advertising, World Cup tickets, well, that's because I was on the FIFA site and they collected my information, and Facebook had their service and cookie on there, and I went to Facebook, and Facebook was like, oh, here's a guy that was looking at World Cup tickets. Let's advertise to him. Hey, I chose that. And so again, whether you meet the threshold or not, it's always good to think about, okay, what does transparency mean, to my business? Okay.
Do we have any
So yeah,
questions from the
yeah,
group? Oh,
I
sorry,
have
Mark.
one question. That's okay. Yeah, Jonathan. So
yes.
if someone's using a private browser
Mhm.
and so there's less information being kind of shared between the website and the person who's accessing it through their IP address, like how does a website deal with that? Like how does it know where you're coming from, what to serve you in terms of your options and opt-outs and accessibility?
Yeah, so there's two sides of that, and I want to make sure I'm clear. So essentially, you're saying like if it's a VP, are you talking about maybe a VPN involved in that as well?
It could be a VPN, could be
Okay.
just, I mean, sometimes, like Apple will give you the option to kind of toggle into a private browsing. So
Yeah, so when it comes to the toggle on the private browsing, I know it's like incognito mode, for example, for Chrome. I use Chrome. That's on their side. I read something about 6 months ago saying that really incognito mode is not as incognito as they say it is. So that's on their side. So I can't. That's hard for me to comment on that. But we still work in those sectors. So if you go to incognito mode, times on there, you still have the ability to opt in or opt out. But going back to the location, we just use geofencing and we identify where you're coming from. Now, if you have a VPN, obviously we recognize that, okay, he's coming from a VPN location. The great thing is that, we will give you that necessary jurisdiction setting based on what you have for the VPN. But if you are, say, in the cannabis industry, okay, or the alcohol industry, so before you can go forward, we've detected that it's a VPN and have said, hey, you got to turn that VPN off so that you are getting the necessary consumer data privacy laws. Because again, I'm just using those two for example, especially with the cannabis industry, CBD, right? Can you sell across state lines? What can you do? So different things like that. So that's why we also have that VPN detection depending on your industry.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that answer your question? I kind of went two ways with it, but
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you.
okay. So, anyone else on the privacy side of things? Okay. All right. So my favorite, uh, accessibility. Whenever you say accessibility, is most people think about somebody in a wheelchair. They think about somebody who wears the dark glasses, somebody that has braces, braces on their legs, right? The very visual stuff. And digital accessibility, we've got to think outside the box. So you've got to think about, and I asked those questions earlier, when somebody comes to your website, What does your website say? And so it's the practice of making digital content and products accessible to as many people as you can, including people with disabilities. Now, have you ever thought about somebody that comes to your website that has dyslexia? Has that ever occurred to you how they are able to navigate your website? Maybe ADHD. Keep it even simpler. My parents, for the longest time, I was trying to explain to them what the heck I do. They're like, what? What are you talking about? You build websites? No, mom, I don't build websites. And so finally, I showed her what I was doing. My parents are in their mid 70s, and I clicked on the solution for low vision, the elderly population. It popped up, made it larger and brighter. She's like, "Holy cow, this is great! This is so much easier to see." And so, don't think about disabilities for those who are on the mass scale. Think about just the very simple ones. How does somebody navigate your website if they can't utilize a mouse? Is your website set up to use arrows and space bars? What about again the elderly or aging population? What if you've gone to get your eyes dilated and you're still in that transition period? And so that we want to make sure that we try to touch as many individuals as we can where they are. Now, for those who are blind, it's very, very important that the website is coded properly so that screen readers can pick up the necessary information and communicate with those individuals. We do not interfere with screen readers. If anything, we recognize that they have a screen reader, and we're just not needed in that moment because, again, individuals who are completely blind or use assistance of a screen reader, that's their tool, that's their right arm that they need. Okay, so when we think about accessibility, think of it from really the most basic standpoint that you can. Sometimes carrying groceries in both hands, and somehow you have to get into your car. At that moment, there is a disability you have to incur. So this is not a new thing. So starting in 1959, California announced the Unruh Civil Rights Act. And again, prohibited discrimination by businesses. In 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act was introduced. In 1998, Section 508, which says that federal agencies or those receiving federal funds must make digital information accessible to those with disabilities. And then it's just evolved. Back in the late 90s, I can remember, we got some very young people on here, so you might not remember having those massive computer towers, and took forever for it to come up, but it started going then. And so that's when web content accessibility guidelines were formed by the World Wide Web Consortium. Think of WCAG is the digital equivalent to ADA. Okay, so they're kind of married together, but one stays on one side of the bed and one stays on the other side of the bed. And then in 2008, it took another step, okay, that they utilized the POUR method, which is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. That's important because that's how they judge how your website is from an accessibility standpoint, okay? And there's 3 levels of conformance, which is very important. Typically, the standard that you should shoot for is AA. A is a really, really good start. AAA, I tell chamber members this: the cost to stay in AAA doesn't make sense. And AAA means that your website is always, always, always accessible from the back end. Okay, and so that's sort of what's happened. The great thing, though, is that in 2010, websites are considered places of public accommodation, right? We talked about back in the day, it was always about the store. And now, brick and mortar is still there, but it seems to be a little bit less than it used to be. And then the Unruh Act now is considered the equivalent to WCAG and ADA, because in California, there was a decision tying it to inaccessible websites. And then 2019, the first public ruling for that. And so we talk about accessibility just from what does that say for your website, but it's law. The website must be accessible from the digital side. All right, why does it matter? And you guys can read all that. I'm just going to get right to the point. It's the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. Okay. And so there are a lot of other benefits, but it's just the right thing to do. Okay, so as of 2025, we kind of want to give you a few mid-year reports. So the top verticals, all right, you can see there: restaurant, fashion, beauty, and healthcare. And by the way, they're not going after Google or Apple or Home Depot. It's the SMBs with less than $25 million in revenue. Attorneys are finding their bathroom moments, as I like to call them back in the day. And Kim, you're shaking your head. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. Where
Yeah.
attorneys just used to essentially go around and see that, oh, the bathroom stalls aren't wide enough, or the counters aren't low enough. You know, back in, what was that? Probably the mid '90s, early '90s, somewhere around there.
We've had lawsuits here locally, even in the pandemic. So yeah, it's been a very interesting time here in
Right.
our region.
Yeah. And so now attorneys are starting to find their bathroom moments to where they go and scroll websites and send out demand letters. Currently, the ADA lawsuits are up 20%. In California alone, it's up 67%. This was as of June of 2025. It's up 67% are the lawsuits. Now, something that's not being discussed or is being reported are the demand letters. And so the demand letter simply says that, hey, we're going to sue you because your website is not accessible for me. And what they're doing is, and the reason why they're targeting the SMBs is because the SMBs they don't financially have the money to go through a long litigation. And so they're settling out of court for about $20,000 to include attorney's fees and remediation to their website. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but that's what's been going on. They're saying roughly there's about 275,000 demand letters that go out a year. You know, and again, you get different stats, but that's roughly what I have found. 275,000 demand letters. I'm all for it. Hey, if things don't work for you, yeah, speak up. But at the same time, that's a lot of demand letters that again, everybody I've ran across, they just don't know, right? This is not a mainstream thing. Last thing, there's you can get up to about $5,000 and a tax credit for improving your website accessibility. Something to consider there. Now, talk with your tax attorney, talk with your CPA when it comes to that. But that is it is stated in the IRS tax code. Okay. All right. So we talked about targeted industries. These industries have received a lawsuit as of October of 2025 in California. And I don't know if you guys know of any of these restaurants, but I looked them up and they're not real big. It's not Applebee's. It's not Outback. These are pretty local-ish types of chains. They've received lawsuits. It's in the lawsuit stage. There's fashion and clothing. I mean, a fishing gear has received an ADA lawsuit. And then you can see here a cannabis retailer and a nail salon has received a lawsuit. So, yes, it can happen to you. That's what I hear a lot. Well, it's not. They're not coming after me. They're not coming after me. Well, here's some companies that are local to the area and they're dealing with ADA lawsuits. Okay, so within the chamber, you guys have different types of members. And you can see here, based on these industries, and I'm sure I've missed some, so my apologies on that, Kim and Nicole. You can kind of see sort of the things that they need for compliance. They all privacy. They all could use accessibility. And then there's different areas, right? Healthcare and government needs HIPAA. Everyone needs a policy generator, wiretapping, AI assistant. And so here's all the things that you might want to look to consider within your website. Where do you fall within those things? Okay, so let me stop there. I'm going to move into the next part. I want to show you what it is and how you can get a quick win. But let me stop there. What questions do you guys have about accessibility in the digital space?
Yeah, no questions for me. I'm just thinking this is probably I'm thinking one of the last things people think about when they have a business is the accessibility and on their website. It's like, oh, I have a website. People can go in and access the pricing on my services, and they don't think about all the other things. And I have noticed though more and more, at least on my phone, on the little imagery that pops up, the little button you can click for accessibility
Mm-hmm.
issues. So I have
Mm-hmm.
noticed more of that happening. So, that's kind of interesting. The timing that I've been seeing is leading up to this meeting, but I I'm so glad I personally am not an entrepreneur, but I think I would be more nervous in today's age of just like instead of now the brick and mortar knocking on the door, this door doesn't open for me. Now I have to worry about what people are seeing on the internet when they visit my site, and so my mind is just like really on a other blown level at the moment. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, and you make a great point there is that a lot of people don't think about this with their website. Hey, give me a website. I want it to be flashy. I want it to be pretty. I want it to drive traffic. I want it to hopefully increase my revenue. Well, you're leaving out a certain sector of people. One in four Americans live with a disability. One in four. So what is there? Seven people here, one and a half, one and a quarter live with a disability. So there's some people that you're leaving out, gathering revenue from. So it really is sort of that simple, and a lot of people say, and I'm going to circle back to this, is that, oh my God, that's a big cost. Oh, that's a big cost. And I'll circle back to that in a second. So to your point, you talked about, you're now starting to see this accessibility feature. And so thank you, Los Altos, for being a partner. And here we are right here. Now, what we're able to do is give you a quick win. So I want to be very clear. WCAG talks about being compliant on the back end. That's coding, that's alt text, discernible links, it's all sorts of different things. Now, there is no rule that says that if you have a widget that makes you accessible. So it's one of those, it's a very gray area, but what we like to say is that this is a step. This is a step to being more accessible. Okay. And so think about somebody that comes to the website that has epilepsy. We've probably never crossed our mind. All it does is clear flashes and reduce colors. My mother loved this right here. Loved it. Larger, brighter. But again, just trying to help out with whoever we have. We mentioned ADHD, just this little focus bar right here to help view better. Colorblind setting, and again, I'm not colorblind. My wife says I dress like I do, but we've talked with different people that they say that, hey, I can tell the difference between is it reds and purples, blues and greens, I think is what it is. And so they say, yeah, you can definitely tell a difference. My favorite I like to show here is this dyslexic friendly font. Now again, I know that there's varying levels of dyslexia, but there's a safe bet that somebody is coming to your website with dyslexia. And how are they viewing the site? That's what it comes down to. And then cognitive disabilities with a focus bar, and you see we're highlighting titles. So those are our preset features. Now we want to customize this for you. So maybe you want to be go here. Maybe you want the font to be, I don't know, you can say 3x. Maybe you want it to be 5x. Again, everybody's visual impairments vary. For me, if I take my contacts out, I don't know if this is big enough. All right. I mean, I got bad eyesight, you know, but thankfully I can correct my sight. And so that's something to help them. A lot of times too, what people don't think about is it easier with the subtle spacing of the text? Does that make a difference to help them view it? And the last one is the line spacing as well. And so these are some of the features that we offer, along with, highlighting links. So if you are an e-commerce, right now they know where to click. If you're a nonprofit, they know where to maybe volunteer or donate. And the last one I like to show, this one, is this text magnifier as well. Just brings it right here to the forefront. And so that's how Climb helps with the accessibility. I did mention the privacy, and the reason why the accessibility is showing, not the privacy, is because Los Altos Chamber does not fall under the category of having to meet CCPA regulations. Why? Because you are a nonprofit. Nicole didn't do anything for that. She just took the code and installed it. But because we already have our system set up to recognize when we went through the company profile, which took 2 minutes, then it puts Los Altos Chamber in a certain category to where, okay, we don't have to present that. We still have it here in our solution, yes, because again, transparency, but it's accessibility is being highlighted when you come to the website. Okay, so let me stop there. Questions about the widget, how it interacts, what sort of things is it able to accomplish?
So, Jonathan, and I did want to also say that as the person who implemented this on our website, this was very easy to do, and I really appreciate having a super easy tool. So someone was looking at our website recently, and if you look along the top where we've got like our about, member directory, and like, for example, program and events, that header, that header is not a link. Like if you click on program and events, it doesn't go anywhere. And I did that on purpose, that I wanted it to be more, that doesn't go anywhere, but you get the drop down. And someone pointed out recently, and you were talking earlier about what if someone can't use a mouse? Right. And that apparently the new regulation is that header has to go anywhere. Dead links are not allowed. Right. Does Climb fix something like that, or make it accessible like that, or is that still something I have to do on the back?
So I'm going to give you the short answer of we help get you there. So one of the things that we provide within our tools, let me see if I can pull it up here really quick, is we also provide an accessibility tool. What that accessibility tool does is, and I ran a scan of your old site, it shows the links that are broken, that are not accessible. And so to the point here, I'll click on this right here. Where is it? So for example, this right here is a inaccessible link or image. And so over here, we're letting you know what it is. And now you can go to your developers and say, hey, we need to have an alt tag with the area label tag inserted into that. So another step. So now with developers aren't cheap, and especially to make them more accessible, you have to go through each of these lines of code to find where things are inaccessible. And so we've taken that other step to provide developers the ability to scan the site to see what links are broken and the remediations on how to fix it. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So that's why I said kind of, because we can't fix it, because that means we have to literally be into your back end, and right, nobody wants to allow complete and total access. I think for that. Yeah, so
that's still great that because again, as a nonprofit, and I'm sure as small businesses, knowing what is wrong is half the battle. Right? That if I don't know that dead links are, and even when I Googled, the web developer pointed it out and I Googled it, Google or AI is still suggesting that that's the best practice, is to have dead links. But he was saying that there was some new regulation that shouldn't allow for that. So
Right.
Knowing it again is, I think, half the process there.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I think something else that I want to circle back to that I think is important is you mentioned is this right here. Okay, so the first step is identifying the problem. You know, that has to be the first step, is identifying the problem. Because so many people, now that they know, it's overwhelming. I had a wonderful meeting with a board of education, a city, and the chamber of commerce. Kimberly, out in Kansas, and they had such wonderful ideas, and they were doing different programming, but they were like, we're just telling them about it. Like, it kind of just goes away. And so to being able to come up with some sort of plan, right? Identify the gaps, identify that from a compliance and accessibility side of things, and then develop a plan. Because now we're starting to get into budget. And I'm sure that's Kimberly's favorite word. I'm sure that's Cheryl's favorite word. Budget, right?
Yep.
So again, unfortunately, you've got to budget it in there or have a plan to, this is where the money's going to come from, or whatever the case may be. I'm a big proponent of quick wins, right? And that's where I think that we come in as Climb, is like we are a quick win. Again, we are not the end, but we are a step in the process. I'm a big believer of, just get a baseball analogy. Just let me get on base. I just want to get on base. I don't have to step in the batter's box to hit a home run. I just want to get on base. That's a positive step in the right direction. What documents do you have? How old are your documents? Do you even have documents? Being able to utilize our compliance, our document generator is simple and easy. It is click, 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 produces the document so that now you can take it to the attorney and say, hey, review this for me. Who knows how much time that saves that attorneys charge per hour, but when you've done the work, right, hopefully that lessens the cost of that as well. I am a big proponent of an accessibility statement. Okay. That's just me. Don't take me as the legal advice. That's just me, simply because for me, it says that we're doing the best we can, but yet we recognize there's more that can be done. And so by having an accessibility statement, it gives individuals the opportunity to reach out to you and say, hey, here's some issues that your website is causing me. Oh, great. Okay. Let me get with my developer, or maybe, you guys can fix it yourself. So that's just a me personal thing. Huge accessibility statement guy, because it just says so much of, we want to do better, but help us out. And then again, the last thing, just commit to digital reviews. Anytime, once a quarter, just have a look. After page redesigns, have a look. And definitely after major rebuilds, that's when you also want to have a look as well. Okay.
Jonathan, we're running close on time, so I think about 5 minutes left. But I have a quick question, and you may have mentioned it, and I may have just gone completely over my head. Mm-hmm. In the Chat GPT and those things, how is that being included? Because I can see that being very user friendly for someone maybe who can't read, but they can talk to their right. screens. Where is that included, and how is that under privacy?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So where do I have it? So let me go back here. So right here, chat bots. So what you don't realize is that that's considered wiretapping. So if they're not asking for your permission, so if it goes from a chat bot to a live human, they must ask you for permission. to continue forward. Okay. And so things with Chat GPT, because it's just feeding each other into that, I'm sure they've got some internal privacies set into that. They're too large not to have something, within that. Yeah. And it's been so I use mine, I'll admit it. I use mine quite a bit. I probably clicked on something early on and say, yeah, I'm good. And I don't ever reset my cache because I need I need the memory. But if any of you guys have a chat bot on there that leads to a human, you might want to think about, adding the wiretapping feature that just says that, hey, before you continue forward, you are consenting to your information, this conversation to being recorded. So
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I know we are short on time. So what questions can I answer that we haven't covered?
This is really informative, Jonathan, and so happy to have you as a partner to support, our organization, other nonprofits and businesses in the region. If there's, assistance I can offer in making other introductions to my network, Chamber of Commerce network, etc., for other communities, I'd be happy to help support. It's a really great service.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And one thing, let me share my screen one more time. I forgot to add this for you guys. So I want you guys to, when you just go to, get a chance, scan your website. It's going to give you a snapshot of where you are with regards to privacy and with regards to accessibility. All right. I'm not, I won't worry about saying, oh, I got her information, his information. No, just take a look. Just take a look. And I'm happy to have a conversation. It's like, okay, what does this mean? And what can we do? The great thing about this program, and I mentioned, I worked in collegiate athletics for 25 years, and I still do soccer on the side. And I didn't realize the reason why I love this Climb for Good program is because we're trying to help people that sometimes don't get the help that they need. So, for example, if you're a nonprofit, you can qualify for a complimentary solution of Climb, especially as being a chamber member. Nonprofit, Los Altos chamber member, hey, we want to provide it to you at no cost. And let's help you set it up. Because with nonprofits, two things are always lacking that I've found with my conversations: money and hands. And so we don't want those two things to be a barrier to being more accessible and more compliant.
Thank you. I think Mark, you went on, took yourself off of mute for a question.
I was just curious how you monetize the service.
Yeah, so we are in a lot of different industries. Our biggest one is the financial services, payment processing side of things. And so, obviously now that the chamber believes in what we do, there are for-profit members, in there as well. But this really is about just doing the right thing. And that's the honest to God truth. When our CEO came, was like, "Hey, I want you to head this program." I'm doing what? I'm giving it away. It's like, man, you got to explain that to me. And it's just about us, getting the word out there, helping more people, especially in the nonprofit side, helping those individuals that need the help, getting it easily. For example, we work with a couple of rehab centers, and they love it because they said people are coming looking for information that maybe there's a challenge if they have certain disabilities. So.
Jonathan, are you seeing, I'm just curious, are you seeing a lot of nonprofits being sued?
No, I haven't. I have not seen that, and I've tried to look it up. But it's just more so about the innovation. It's more about just trying to reach more individuals because like we mentioned earlier, how many people with dyslexia or ADHD or epilepsy is going to say anything about your website? And especially again going back to the nonprofits, like they all have a social mission. Whether it's the lady I work with up in Washington State to where she raises money for complex gynecological pain, but there's only 10 doctors in the US that handle this types of things. So she raises money so these women can go see these doctors. I was blown away by this, you know. Or you are a not Planned Parenthood, but you are a foundation of where women can come and just figure out their options. Whether it's, hey, we'll help you go through adoption, maybe it is abortion, or hey, maybe we are going to help you raise this kid. So there's so many different things that nonprofits have, is that we don't want that mission being lost because individuals with invisible disabilities can't get the message or struggle. Sorry, not can, but struggle to get the message. Yeah. So I think we're up against the time here. Is that right, Diana?
Yes, we just have a couple of minutes for any closing remarks that you want to say, Jonathan, and then announcements from Kim for the group. So, final words, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I hope that more people understand the value of being more accessible, more compliant. You're more transparent. You're more inclusive, right? And try to look at it away from the standpoint, oh, it costs me money. Look at it from the standpoint of it might set me apart from that next person because now I'm showing that I care about you and your individual information and those who don't have a voice.
Thank you so much again for this. I learned a lot. I'm gonna start like talking to my friends and colleagues who have businesses and just be like, "Hey, did you know about this?" And check just check out this Los Altos Chamber recording and learn about Climb. But I just really appreciate you again taking the time, Nicole, for bringing me here with us today. Kim, any announcements or things for the group?
I think this is just a perfect opportunity to follow up with our members and to share the recording and link to scan your website, etc., so that we can really make sure that our businesses are in alignment with this opportunity with Climb. So really, really appreciate that and look forward to spreading the word. I'm sure in the new year is probably more appropriate as everyone is so busy in this last week or so before we take a break for the holiday. A couple of things. Maria is actually part of our LEAD program, our leadership development program in Los Altos. And so our next meeting for LEAD is the 14th of January, and we'll be meeting with city government on that date at the city council chambers. So looking forward to that session. Great cohort and wonderful things happening there with LEAD. We also have the Los Altos magazine that we are currently printing, and that will be distributed here shortly. We have a wonderful pickup party for that scheduled on the following day on the 16th, Thursday, the 16th of January from 5 to 6:30. And that will be at the State Street Market. We have a fabulous celebration planned for that event. So new year, new magazine, new connections is the theme for that. So if you come to California, Jonathan, we love to have you there. Can connect you to some other people as well.
Love it.
And just wishing you all a happy holiday, peaceful rest and time with friends and family. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We will not be meeting in January, but we will be meeting in February. So same time, normal place, and happy holidays and whatever you celebrate. I hope you enjoy it. So thank you so much, and see you all next year. Thank
Happy
you again, Jonathan.
holidays.
Bye, all.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good one. Take care.
Bye-bye.